Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well today. Well, let's take a look at the money supply and understanding what that means, because a lot of times people are a little bit confused about the money supply and how economists sort of measure it. So here we go. Well, the money supply, by definition, let's start off with money. Money is defined as anything that is widely accepted as a payment for goods and services. Say now, that makes sense, right? And so besides like being able to buy things, money also plays other roles in our economy, which we don't really think about that much, right? But it serves these following three roles, I guess you would say. Functions, I guess, is even a better word. Number one, money allows us to talk about relative value. In other words, to communicate the relative value of different goods and services. So if there's a car, right, and you look at the car, and then there's another car, and they're both silver, and they're both Hyundais, but one costs $10,000 and the other one costs $8,000. You don't know anything about either one of those cars, but which one is, quote, better? Well, probably if it's a really competitive market, the one for $10,000 is going to be, quote, better, right? And it allows us to make judgments on things without really knowing anything about the product. And it's not always true, of course. There's exceptions, right? But if you were to buy like a pen, I don't know, Bic pens are like the cheapest quality pens there are. Well, they're not that cheap. You can buy pens that are cheaper, but if you get a cheaper pen than a Bic pen, guess what? It's going to break. I mean, and nothing worse for me anyway than a cheap pen. So just by looking at the price of the pen, and if you know that a Bic pen is pretty good, and something's cheaper than that, then it's probably not as good. It's probably of less quality. So the other thing that second thing that money allows us to do is to store value. So money can be saved or stored to use in the future. And this is why you take money, right, and you throw it into into a bank account, right? It's sort of like in the old days, people used to like carry gold. You know, it's like, oh, we'll keep the gold because the gold will hold its value. Well, gold only has value based on like people's perception of the value of gold. And money is, now that it's off the gold standard, it's pretty similar, right? It depends on the scarcity of, the technical way of saying it is, it depends on the scarcity of the money over time. Some kinds of money become less scarce, right? And it loses its value. So if the U.S. government like just starts printing off a whole bunch of dollar bills, then the value of each one of those dollar bills is going to go down because there's just more of them because they're less scarce. But one of the functions of money is to store value. You know, that's what a savings account is. You know, if you want to save money for the future, you save like $100 a paycheck, and over time, you know, you collect $50,000, and then you have $50,000 for retirement or for a college education or something. So there's another function of money. And the last thing is just a medium of exchange. You know, like, hey, I'm going to buy it. And this is a function that we know, right? But money could be anything, and money actually has been a lot of different things over time. It used to be gold, it used to be silver. Well, why would somebody take a piece of silver if somebody were to make like a bed, right, in the old days, and then you come in there and you show up with like a piece of wood, and you're like, oh, I'll buy that bed with a piece of wood. They're like, I don't want your piece of wood. But then you show up there with a piece of silver, and people are like, oh, yeah, I'll take your piece of silver. And so you give them a chunk of silver, a nugget of silver, and you walk away with the bed. Well, why did they take the silver instead of the wood? Well, because they can take that silver and turn around and buy something else with it, because someone else will be willing to take the silver for the thing that they want to buy. It's just like money. You walk in and you buy something, or you go in and you buy a bed with $100. The person who made the bed will take the $100 because someone else will actually accept that same cash, the same little piece of paper, it's just a piece of paper, for you to buy something else. And so money becomes a medium of exchange, and that's why it has value. In reality, however, there are three major types of things we're talking about when we say the money supply. So a transition here over to the money supply. What does it mean when we're talking about the money? It's not just cash, okay? So expand your ideas about the money supply, quote unquote, a little bit more to talk about, you know, not just the number of, like, the amount of money that's circulating around, but there are different types of money. And they change from things that are more spendable to things that are, which means they're liquid, and things that are less liquid. Liquid means that it runs. So something that's liquid Well, like super liquid would like run down, I don't know, a ramp if you poured water on it. But if it's less liquid, like yogurt, well, then it's going to move down slowly. And if you wanted the yogurt to move down the ramp more quickly, what would you do? You would add water to it, but you still have to do that second step. So the water is more liquid. It's more easily it flows more easily. So if you have that ridiculous analogy in your head, you can say like, okay, well, these are the types of money from liquid to less liquid, from water to, I guess, in my ridiculousness, yogurt. Okay. So cash and checks, what does that mean? Well, this is the kind of money that we spend. You know, you walk into a store, you got some cash in your pocket, you pull it out, you buy it, right? Or you don't, you have a check and you fill out the check and then you spend, and that actually like takes money immediately out of your bank account. Same thing if you go in with a debit card and you go in and you use your Visa debit card. Well, that's really a check, which just means it gives the company or the store that you're buying it from ability to go get your cash immediately, right? So we know that. That's basically like currency. So that's pretty liquid. If you got money in your pocket, you can just go and spend it really easily without taking a second step. It's water going down the ramp. The second thing is saving deposits. This is less liquid and money market deposits, kind of the same thing. Well, what does that mean? These are things that you deposit in a bank that you can only take out over a certain period of time. So my dad used to buy what they're called CDs, or certificates of deposit, and all that means is he gave them $100, but he can't get his $100 for 3 months, and then in 3 months he can go get his $100 and they'll give him a little bit of interest, 5% interest or something. Well, there's CDs that you can get over 90 days and get them 180 days and get them over a year, and basically in order for you to go get your real cash, the real money, you have to take a second step, and you can't get to the money without having a second process. You can't just go spend it. If you walked into a store with a savings deposit, you wouldn't be able to buy anything. You'd have to then go to the bank, get your cash, then go to the store to buy your thing, which is just like the yogurt going down the thing. If you want it to be more liquid, you got to add water to it. All of a sudden, it's going to run. And then the last thing is long-term deposits, which these are mutual funds and others things that require a penalty to withdraw. So, like if you know anything about retirement accounts, or it doesn't really matter if you do, but a retirement account is something you put money into, and then you can't get to it. You cannot take it out, say, until you're 60 or 65 years old. In the United States, anyway, those are the rules. And that's fine because you put money in there because you really don't want to be able to get to it very easily because the reason is you want to save it, right? Well, long-term deposits, what would you have to do? You would have to go to the institution, the bank that has this is holding on to your cash that's usually been invested in the stock market, and then you would have to withdraw it, which would probably take 3 to 5 days, and you'd pay a penalty. So you usually have to pay you almost always have to pay a penalty in order to get the money out. What does that mean? Oh, it's less liquid. What does that mean? It's more of a hassle to spend. Do you still have that money? Yes. Is it still money? Yes. Is it liquid? No, not really. In fact, it's worse than yogurt. I was trying to think what I was going to say. Maybe like honey or something. But honey and water don't really go together. But you get it, okay? I mean, they go together, but you're not going to make honey more liquid if you add water to it. So in any event, those are 3 types of money: cash and checks, saving deposits, long-term deposits, and all of those contribute to what's called the money supply, because money supply is the amount of money that is actually able to circulate in the economy at any given time, and that some of them are more liquid than others. All right, my friends, so I hope you found that video to be helpful, and we'll talk to you in a bit.